The cold light from the 3 moons of Althea streamed through the small window of Elavix's prison cell. She sat on the hard floor with her knees pulled up to her chest, her violet skin appearing almost gray in the dim light. Tomorrow would be her last day alive. Elavix ran her 6-fingered hand along the rough stone wall. The prison was ancient, built long before the current rulers came to power. Unlike the sleek, modern buildings that made up most of the capital city, this place was designed to make prisoners feel the weight of history and tradition pressing down upon them. She had known the risks when she accessed the forbidden archives. The council had sealed those records centuries ago, declaring that knowledge of other worlds and species was dangerous. The official teaching was clear. The Zithari were alone in the universe, superior, and meant to remain pure. But Elavix had never believed it. The stars were too numerous, the universe too vast for her people to be its only intelligent inhabitants. Prisoner 47,829, your final meal. The guard pushed a tray of food through the small opening at the bottom of her cell door. His 4 eyes didn't meet hers. Some guards taunted her, calling her knowledge seeker with mocking tones. This one just seemed sad. "Thank you," Elavix said quietly. The guard paused, surprised by her gratitude, then moved on without a word. She didn't touch the food. Her stomach felt tight with fear. The festival of purity would begin at dawn, and her execution was scheduled as its opening ceremony. The council had decided to make an example of her. Elavix closed her eyes and remembered what she had discovered in those forbidden files before they caught her. Images of beings unlike any on Althea, records of meetings between Zithari ancestors and visitors from beyond their world. Evidence that long ago her people had been part of something greater. When they arrested her, the chief elder had personally questioned her. "Why would you seek such dangerous knowledge?" he had asked, his ceremonial headpiece casting shadows across his aged face. "Because I believe we are not meant to be alone," Elavix had answered. "Our ancestors knew this. They spoke with others from beyond our world." The elder's face had hardened. Those stories were erased for a reason. Outside influence brings only corruption and weakness. Your crime threatens the purity of our entire species. Now, facing her final night, Elavix wondered if anyone would remember her true reason for searching those files. Her older brother had disappeared 3 years ago after reporting strange lights in the northern sky. The official story was that he had been lost in the great forest, but she had never believed it. From her small window, she could see a tiny portion of the night sky. Were there others out there looking up at different stars? Did they also wonder if they were alone? A shooting star streaked across her limited view. Elavix made a wish, feeling childish but desperate. She wished for proof that she was right before she died. The sound of footsteps brought her back to reality. Another guard, Commander Vexor, appeared at her cell. His posture was stiff with disapproval. "The council has sent me to inform you that your execution will be witnessed by all young academics. They wish for your death to serve as a lesson about the dangers of forbidden knowledge." Elavix met his gaze steadily. "Knowledge itself is never dangerous, Commander. Only how we use it." Vexor's upper lip curled. "Your pretty words won't save you tomorrow." He turned sharply and walked away. Alone again, Elavix finally reached for the food tray. She would need strength, even if only to face her end with dignity. As she ate, she noticed something strange through her window. A light, too steady to be a star, too fast to be a moon, moved purposefully across the sky. It wasn't like anything she had seen before. For a moment, hope flared within her chest. Then reality crushed it down. Even if there were others among the stars, they didn't know about her. They wouldn't come for her. Tomorrow, she would die for believing in a bigger universe than the one her people accepted. Her final regret would be never knowing if she was right. The strange light disappeared beyond her window's view, and Elavix prepared herself for her final night of sleep. Jack Hawkins stretched in the pilot's chair of the Starseeker, his back cracking after hours of sitting still. The small exploration vessel hummed softly around him as it orbited the unexplored planet. The ship's view screen showed a beautiful world of deep blue oceans and purple-tinted continents. "Penny, what do we know about this planet so far?" Jack asked, running a hand through his short brown hair. The ship's AI responded in a calm female voice. "Planet designation XR27, now locally identified as Althea. Atmosphere is oxygen-rich and compatible with human breathing. Scans show signs of advanced civilization, primarily concentrated in 7 major cities. Energy signatures indicate technology level similar to early 23rd century Earth." Jack nodded, taking a sip from his coffee mug. He wasn't supposed to be here. The Terran Exploration Corps had strict rules about first contact. New civilizations were to be observed from a distance, studied for years before any approach was made. And that approach should involve a team of diplomats, cultural specialists, and security personnel, not a lone scout pilot. But Jack had never been good at following rules that didn't make sense to him. "Any signals we can decode?" he asked. "Processing local communications now," Penny replied. "Their language structure is complex but analyzable. Translation matrix is at 48% and climbing." Jack smiled. His ship was equipped with the newest translation technology, designed to break down alien languages in record time. It was meant for emergency situations, but Jack considered his curiosity an emergency of sorts. The scanner beeped, drawing his attention to a new reading. "What's that energy spike, Penny?" "Detecting high concentration of activity in the largest city on the northern continent. Public gathering of some kind." Jack's interest peaked. "Can we get a closer look without being detected?" "Affirmative. Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels." With practiced movements, Jack guided the Starseeker closer to the planet. The ship slipped through the upper atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology making it invisible to both eyes and sensors. As they descended, the details of the alien world came into focus. The architecture was striking. Tall, spiral buildings that seemed to capture the light of the system's sun and redirect it in beautiful patterns. "They certainly have a sense of style," Jack murmured. "Captain, I'm intercepting communications about a public event tomorrow." Translating. Penny paused, processing the information. "It appears to be an execution." Jack frowned. "An execution? What's the crime?" "Referenced as knowledge corruption and purity violation. The subject is referred to as a female named Elavix." Jack's frown deepened. Throughout human history, executions for seeking knowledge rarely indicated a just society. "Let's find out more about this Elavix and what she did to deserve a death sentence." He piloted the ship to a secluded area in the mountains outside the city and activated the landing gear. The Starseeker settled among the purple vegetation, with barely a sound. "Penny, I need a disguise if I'm going to blend in. What do these aliens look like?" A holographic image appeared before him. A tall, slender being with violet skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and 6-fingered hands. Jack whistled softly. "That's going to be a challenge. But let's see what the Chamo suit can do." From a compartment near his bunk, Jack pulled out a skin-tight suit designed for covert operations. The nanotechnology within could mimic most humanoid forms within limits. It wouldn't be perfect, but with the right behavior and keeping to shadows, he might pass a casual inspection. "Captain, I must remind you that Exploration Corps Regulation 17.3 strictly prohibits interference with developing civilizations," Penny said. Jack smiled as he began to put on the suit. "I'm not interfering, Penny. I'm just gathering information. Your historical behavior suggests otherwise." The AI replied with what sounded almost like resignation. As the suit activated, Jack's skin tone shifted to violet, and the nanites created the illusion of extra fingers and eyes. It wasn't perfect, but it would do for a careful observer at night. "How do I look?" he asked. "Like a poor approximation of a local, but sufficient at a distance," Penny answered honestly. Jack checked his translator, and tucked a small stunner into his pocket. Just in case. Keep the engines warm, Penny. I'm going to find out what kind of crime deserves death in this place. Outside, the air of Althea filled his lungs, slightly sweeter than Earth's, with hints of unfamiliar spices. Jack looked toward the distant city, its lights now visible as darkness fell. Tomorrow would bring an execution, and possibly a decision that would change everything. The central square of the Zithari capital was filled with thousands of violet-skinned beings by early morning. Jack moved carefully through the crowd, keeping his head down. His disguise worked well enough from a distance, but any close inspection would reveal him as an imposter. He had wrapped himself in a cloak he had found discarded near the city's edge, which helped conceal the imperfections of his disguise. Tall crystal towers surrounded the square, their surfaces reflecting the morning light in dazzling patterns. In the center stood a raised platform with a strange machine that Jack guessed was the execution device. Guards with weapons that resembled electrified spears stood at attention around it. The festival of purity begins with cleansing, announced a loud voice from speakers around the square. Today we remove the corruption that threatens our society. Jack tapped the small translator in his ear. Penny was feeding him real-time translations from the ship. He listened as the speaker, an elderly Zithari with elaborate decorations on his robes, continued. For centuries, we have kept ourselves safe from outside influence. We have prospered in isolation. But there are always those who would endanger us with dangerous ideas. The crowd murmured in agreement. Jack noticed that not everyone seemed enthusiastic. Some looked down, while others appeared uncomfortable. Bring forth the knowledge seeker, commanded the elder. The crowd parted as guards led a female Zithari toward the platform. Jack recognized her from the images Penny had shown him. Elevix. She walked with her head held high despite the chains around her wrists and ankles. Something about her dignity moved Jack deeply. Elevix, daughter of the Science Guild, you stand accused of accessing forbidden archives containing corrupted knowledge of alleged beings from beyond our world. How do you answer? Elevix's voice rang out clearly across the square. I sought only truth. If that is a crime, then your laws serve fear, not wisdom. Gasps rose from the crowd. The elder's 4 eyes narrowed. Truth, he asked, his voice dripping with scorn. You speak of truth while betraying everything our ancestors built. They sealed those archives to protect us, or to control us. Elevix replied. The records I found show our ancestors met other beings. They learned from them. We were once part of something greater than just our world. The elder raised his hand, silencing her. This is the corruption of which I speak. She would have us believe we are not alone, not special, not pure. Such ideas lead only to chaos. Jack moved closer, intrigued by her words. The translation matched what he knew. The Zithari had indeed been visited centuries ago by early human explorers, though contact had been lost long ago. A younger Zithari near Jack whispered to his companion, Is it possible she's right? What if there are others out there? Quiet, his friend hissed. Do you want to join her? Jack studied the crowd more carefully. There was fear here, but also doubt. Not everyone believed the official story. The elder continued, As is our custom, the condemned may speak final words before purification. Speak, if you must, Elevix. Elevix looked out over the crowd, her gaze steady. I know many of you share my questions. Why are we forbidden to look up at the stars and wonder? Why are our most ancient texts sealed away? A society built on hidden knowledge is built on shifting sand. I regret only that I will not live to see the day when truth prevails. Her words struck Jack like a physical blow. They reminded him of Earth's own history, times when knowledge was suppressed, when curiosity was treated as heresy. His people had moved beyond that darkness centuries ago. The elder gestured to the guards. Prepare the purification. Guards moved toward Elevix. Jack's hand slipped to the stunner in his pocket. He hadn't come here planning to interfere, but watching this scene unfold, he felt something shift inside him. This wasn't justice. This was fear-crushing curiosity. "The execution will proceed at midday," announced the elder. "Let all young academics witness the price of forbidden knowledge." As they led Elavix away to await her final hour, her eyes scanned the crowd. For just a moment, Jack thought those eyes met his. Despite everything, there was no defeat in her gaze, only a fierce determination to face her end with dignity. Jack slipped away from the crowd. He had 6 hours until midday. 6 hours to decide whether to follow the Prime Directive and let events unfold, or to act and change everything. Back in the safety of the Starseeker, Jack paced the small cabin. The ship was hidden in a dense forest outside the city, its cloaking systems active. "Penny, show me the Prime Directive again," he said. The AI displayed the text on the main screen. Terran explorers must not interfere with the natural development of alien civilizations. First contact should only be initiated after thorough study and with proper authorization. Violations may result in immediate termination of service and possible criminal charges. Jack read it 3 times, then sighed heavily. "Captain, your vital signs indicate elevated stress levels." Penny noted. "May I ask what you're considering?" "I'm considering breaking the most important rule in the book," Jack replied, dropping into his chair. "I can't just let them kill her for wanting to know the truth." "The Prime Directive exists for good reasons," Penny reminded him. "Interference has caused catastrophic results in the past." Jack nodded. He knew the history. Early human explorers had sometimes caused chaos by revealing themselves to unprepared civilizations. Some societies had collapsed into religious warfare. Others had become dependent on advanced technology they didn't understand. "But this is different," Jack argued. "They're executing her for discovering something that's actually true. Their ancestors did meet other species. They're killing her to preserve a lie." Jack pulled up the historical records on his screen. 200 years ago, a human exploration team had indeed made contact with the Zitheri. The contact had been peaceful, with knowledge and culture exchanged. But something had happened afterward, a shift in Zitheri politics. The records were incomplete, but it seemed a faction had risen to power that feared outside influence. "They chose isolation," Jack murmured, "and they've been enforcing it ever since." "That was their choice as a civilization," Penny pointed out. "The directive protects their right to make that choice." Jack looked at the clock. 3 hours until midday. 3 hours until Elavix would be executed for a crime that on Earth and most other civilized planets would be considered no crime at all. "What if I don't reveal I'm human?" Jack mused. "What if I just create a distraction, help her escape, and bring her here? She already believes in alien life." "That would still be interference," Penny said. "And you would be responsible for her afterward. She could never return home." Jack closed his eyes, thinking of Elavix's brave stance in the square. Her words had touched something deep within him. Humanity had once killed people for seeking knowledge too. They had once feared the unknown, but they had grown beyond it. "Show me the plan of the city again," Jack said suddenly. Penny displayed a map constructed from orbital scans. Jack studied the central prison where Elavix was being held. "If I create a distraction here," he pointed, "the guards would respond. That would give me a few minutes to reach her cell." "And then?" Penny asked. "And then I get her out through this service tunnel, which seems to lead toward the edge of the city. The Starseeker can pick us up here." He pointed to a clearing just beyond the city walls. "Captain, I feel obligated to remind you that this plan violates at least 17 regulations." Jack smiled grimly. "Just 17. I must be getting cautious in my old age." He stood and began gathering supplies. A small toolkit, his stunner, a medical kit, and a spare environment suit that might fit the alien woman. "What if she doesn't want to come with you?" Penny asked. "What if she chooses to accept her fate?" This made Jack pause. "Then I'll respect her choice. I won't force her." He checked the local time again. 2 hours and 40 minutes remaining. "I need something that will cause confusion without harming anyone." Jack muttered, searching through his equipment locker. His eyes fell on a small device used for emergency signals. With some modifications, it could create quite a light show. As he worked on the device, Jack thought about what waited for him back on Earth if he went through with this. Court-martial, certainly. Possible imprisonment. Definite end of his career. Yet somehow, none of that seemed to matter when weighed against saving an innocent life. Penny, keep the engines warm. If this works, we'll need to leave quickly. And if it doesn't? The AI asked. Jack didn't answer as he finished his preparations and headed toward the airlock. Sometimes, he decided, rules existed to be broken. The central square was even more crowded than before. Jack moved through the throngs of Zithari, his cloak pulled tight around his disguised form. The modified signal device was tucked in one pocket, his stunner in the other. Guards stood at every corner of the square. On the platform, the strange execution machine hummed with power. Jack checked the time. 20 minutes until midday. A low chanting began as religious leaders in elaborate robes filed into the square. Behind them, more guards led Elavix from the prison. Her head was still held high, but Jack could see exhaustion in her stance. "This is madness," he whispered to himself. The elder from the morning ceremony stepped onto the platform. "The time of purification approaches. Let all witness the price of corruption." Jack moved to his planned position near a tall crystal pillar. From here, he could trigger his device and still have a clear path to the small side entrance of the prison where Elavix had emerged. According to Penny's analysis, that door would lead to the detention area. The elder raised his hands for silence. "Bring the knowledge seeker forward." As Elavix was led up the steps to the platform, Jack activated his communicator. "Penny, be ready for extraction in 8 minutes." "Understood, Captain," came the AI's response in his ear. "The ship is in position." Jack's fingers closed around the signal device. He had modified it to create a display of lights and sounds that would appear supernatural to the Zithari. It wouldn't harm anyone, but it should cause enough confusion for his plan to work. On the platform, the elder addressed Elavix. "Do you wish to renounce your corrupted beliefs before purification?" Elavix's voice carried across the now silent square. "I will not renounce truth. If seeking knowledge is corruption, then I die proudly corrupted." A murmur ran through the crowd. Jack saw uncertainty on many faces. He wasn't the only one questioning what was happening. "Then let the purification begin," announced the elder, gesturing toward the machine. Jack pressed the button on his device and threw it high into the air above the crowd. The effect was immediate. Brilliant lights and colors the Zithari had never seen burst across the sky. Sounds that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere filled the square. The device hovered, supported by its built-in anti-gravity unit, spinning and creating patterns of light that danced over the buildings. Panic erupted. The crowd began to scatter, some falling to their knees in prayer, others running for the exits. Guards looked up in confusion, weapons raised but unsure what to target. "The sky spirits," someone shouted. "They have come in judgment." Jack didn't wait to see more. In the chaos, he sprinted to the prison entrance, stunner now in hand. The 2 guards at the door were staring upward at the light display. With quick, precise shots, Jack stunned them both before they could react. The access card he needed was clipped to one guard's belt. Jack grabbed it and swiped it across the door panel. The door slid open. Inside, alarms were blaring. Guards ran toward the main entrance, leaving the detention area nearly empty. Jack moved quickly through the corridors, following the path Penny had mapped from the building scans. He found Elavix's cell easily. It was the only one with extra guards. 2 Zithari stood outside, looking anxious as the commotion from the square reached them. "What's happening out there?" one asked the other. "Some kind of attack," the second replied. "We should." Jack didn't let him finish. 2 quick shots from his stunner, and both guards slumped to the floor. The cell door required another swipe of the access card. It slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, Elavik stood pressed against the far wall, her 4 eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Who are you?" she asked, staring at Jack's obviously imperfect disguise. Jack realized his cloak had fallen open, revealing the strange suit beneath. There was no time for explanations. In the distance, he could hear more guards approaching. "Someone who believes truth shouldn't be punished," he said simply, extending his hand. "Come with me if you want to live." Elavix hesitated for only a moment before reaching out her 6-fingered hand and taking his. Alarms blared throughout the prison as Jack pulled Elavix through the corridors. She ran beside him, her movements quick despite her exhaustion. Outside, the chaos from Jack's light device continued. "This way," Jack said, guiding her toward the service tunnel he had identified in his plan. He could hear guards shouting orders in the distance. "Who are you?" Elavix asked again as they ran. "What are you?" Jack glanced at her. There was fear in her 4 eyes, but also determination and curiosity. "Someone who heard what you said in the square. Someone who believes knowledge shouldn't be a crime." They reached the entrance to the service tunnel, a small doorway half hidden behind storage containers. Jack swiped the access card, and the door slid open. "In here," he urged. "This should lead outside the city." The tunnel was narrow and dim, designed for maintenance workers. They moved as quickly as possible, Jack checking his small navigator device to ensure they were heading toward the extraction point. "Your appearance," Elavix said between breaths. "Your disguise isn't perfect." Jack smiled despite the tension. "I noticed. It was the best I could do on short notice." "You're not Zith Eri," she stated simply. "You're from beyond our world." "Yes, I knew it," she whispered, a note of triumph in her voice. "I knew we weren't alone." They reached the end of the tunnel. Another door stood between them and freedom. Jack pressed his ear against it, listening for guards. Hearing nothing, he used the access card once more. The door opened onto a small maintenance yard near the city wall. In the distance, they could see the forest where the Starseeker waited. "We need to move quickly," Jack said, checking his communicator. "Penny, we're coming out." "Any pursuit?" "Negative, Captain," the AI responded. "But city defenses are activating. You have approximately 3 minutes before aerial patrols deploy." Elavix startled at the voice coming from the small device. "Who is that?" "A friend," Jack said simply. "Come on." They sprinted across open ground toward the forest line. Jack's disguise was falling apart now, patches of his natural skin tone showing through. Elavix kept glancing at him as they ran, her expression a mixture of fear and wonder. They reached the trees just as the sound of engines roared overhead. Patrol crafts were launching from the city. "Almost there," Jack encouraged, guiding her deeper into the forest. The Starseeker appeared before them, its ramp lowering as they approached. Elavix stopped abruptly, staring at the ship. "What is that?" she gasped. "Our way out," Jack said. "If you still want to come." Elavix hesitated, looking back toward the city where she had spent her entire life. "If I go with you, I can never return, can I?" "Probably not," Jack admitted. "At least not soon." She took a deep breath. "Where would we go?" "Somewhere safe, somewhere you'd be free to learn whatever you want." Jack held out his hand. "But it has to be your choice." Patrol crafts were circling closer. They had perhaps 1 minute before they would be spotted. Elavix looked at Jack, studying his now partly revealed human features. "All my life, I believed there were others among the stars. I found proof in the archives, and they sentenced me to death for it." Her 6-fingered hand reached out and took his. "I choose knowledge." They ran up the ramp into the ship. Inside, Elavix froze, overwhelmed by the technology around her. Lights blinked on control panels. Screens displayed information in languages she couldn't read. "Welcome aboard, Captain," came Penny's voice from speakers. "And guest." Elavix jumped at the sound. "What is that?" "That's Penny. She helps run the ship. Jack explained as he rushed to the pilot's seat. "You might want to sit down. First-time space travel can be disorienting." Ela Vix carefully lowered herself into the co-pilot's chair, watching in amazement as Jack's hands moved over the controls. "Engaging cloaking system," he said, preparing for atmospheric exit. The ship hummed to life around them. Through the viewscreen, Ela Vix could see the patrol crafts still searching the forest, unaware that their quarry was right beneath them. "Ready?" Jack asked, glancing at her. Ela Vix nodded, her 4 eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. "I've been ready my whole life." The Starseeker rose silently through the trees, invisible to the Zithari sensors. As they climbed higher, Ela Vix gasped. For the first time, she saw her world from above. The sprawling cities, the vast forests, the shimmering oceans. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It is," Jack agreed. "And there are many more beautiful worlds out there." As the ship broke through the atmosphere into the darkness of space, Ela Vix looked out at the stars. Stars she had only seen from the ground. Stars that now represented not just points of light, but possibilities. Harmony Station hung in space like a shining wheel, its many sections rotating gently to create gravity. Through the large viewing window of the observation deck, Ela Vix watched ships of different shapes and sizes dock and depart. Each one carried beings from different worlds. The idea still amazed her. "How are you feeling today?" asked Jack, joining her at the window. 3 weeks had passed since their escape from Althea. "Better," she said, her voice now fluent in English thanks to the language implant she had received. "I still dream of home sometimes." Jack nodded. "That's natural. You left everything behind." Ela Vix turned to face him. Without his disguise, Jack looked so different from her people with his single pair of eyes and 5-fingered hands, yet she had grown comfortable with his alien appearance. "The doctor says I'm adapting well," she said. "Physically, at least." "And mentally?" Jack asked gently. Ela Vix looked back at the stars. "I'm still trying to understand it all. So many species, so many worlds." She gestured toward the busy docking bay below where a group of tall, insect-like beings chatted with furry creatures half their size. "My people believe they are alone in the universe. They live in fear of what they don't understand." "Many species went through similar phases," Jack said. "Humans certainly did." Ela Vix had spent hours in the station's library, learning about Earth's history. Humans had once feared the stars too. They had once killed people for speaking truths that challenged their beliefs. Yet they had grown beyond it. "Commander Wright wants to see us," Jack said after a moment of silence. "Something about the hearing." Ela Vix nodded. When they had arrived at Harmony Station, Jack had immediately been placed under investigation for violating the Prime Directive. He faced serious consequences for saving her life. They walked together through the busy corridors of the station. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved around them. Some nodded respectfully to Ela Vix, the first Zithari most had ever seen. Commander Lisa Wright's office was simple but elegant. The tall human woman stood as they entered. "Jack, Ela Vix, please sit," she said, gesturing to chairs. "Have you reached a decision?" Jack asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. Wright sighed. "The Exploration Council is divided. What you did violated our most sacred rule, Jack." "I know," he said quietly. "But," Wright continued, "some members argue that the rule becomes questionable when it means standing by it while an innocent dies for seeking knowledge." Ela Vix spoke up. "On my world, rules were never questioned. That was our greatest weakness." Wright studied her with interest. "You've become quite a topic of discussion among the Council, Ela Vix, the first Zithari to join the wider galactic community in over 2 centuries. Am I to be a curiosity forever?" Ela Vix asked. "Or can I be useful somehow?" "That's actually why I called you both here," Wright said, tapping on her desk computer. "We've received some interesting transmissions from Althea." The screen on the wall displayed images that made Ela Vix gasp. crowds of Zithari in the central square, holding signs with questions written on them. Some even had crude drawings of what might be other worlds or species. "What's happening?" she asked, leaning forward. "Your disappearance has sparked something," Wright explained. "The official story was that you were executed, but rumors spread about strange lights and your body vanishing. Some are calling it a miracle. Others believe you were rescued by, as they put it, beings from beyond." "They're questioning," Jack said softly. "Exactly what you wanted them to do." Elavix felt tears in her eyes. "My brother would be so proud." Wright continued, "The Council believes this might represent an opportunity, not for forced contact, but for a choice. Your people might be ready to decide for themselves whether to join the larger community." With the right approach, Jack added, understanding dawning on his face. "Yes," Wright nodded, "and who better to help shape that approach than a Zithari who has seen both worlds?" She looked directly at Elavix. "The Council is forming a contact team. They want you to advise them." "Me?" Elavix whispered. "You," Wright confirmed. "And Jack, if he accepts reassignment from exploration to first contact." She smiled slightly. It seems the Council found a way to both punish and reward him. Elavix looked at Jack, who seemed equally surprised. "We would go back." "Eventually," Wright said, "after proper preparation." Jack reached over and squeezed Elavix's hand. "I told you that first day that knowledge shouldn't be punished." Elavix squeezed back, remembering the moment in her cell when this strange alien had offered her life instead of death. "Now we can share it instead." 6 months later, Elavix stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Horizon, watching as her home planet grew larger in the view screen. The purple continents and deep blue oceans of Althea looked just as beautiful from space as she remembered. "Nervous?" Jack asked, coming to stand beside her. His uniform was different now, the blue and silver of the First Contact Division, instead of the dark green of Exploration Corps. "Yes," Elavix admitted. "I never thought I would return home, especially not like this." The Horizon was one of the Terran Cooperative's finest diplomatic ships. It carried representatives from 12 different species, all members of the Galactic Cooperative. Their mission: official first contact with the Zithari. Commander Wright approached them, datapad in hand. "The Council of Elders has agreed to meet with us. Our scans show large gatherings in most major cities. Your people are very interested in our arrival." Elavix nodded. Over the past months, the movement that had started after her disappearance had grown. More and more Zithari questioned the old ways. When the cooperative had sent the first careful messages, many had been ready to listen. "Who leads the council now?" she asked. "A scientist named Vexor," Wright replied, checking her notes. Elavix's 4 eyes widened in surprise. "A prison commander. He was one of my strongest critics." Jack smiled. "People can change when presented with new evidence. Our reports suggest he became curious after your disappearance. He started investigating the old archives himself." A young human officer approached. "We're entering orbit, Commander. The Zithari have cleared a landing area outside the capital." "Thank you, Lieutenant," Wright said. "Prepare the landing party." She turned to Elavix. "Are you ready?" Elavix smoothed her new uniform, a special design that honored both her Zithari heritage and her position as the first of her kind to join the cooperative. "I'm ready." The landing was smooth, the diplomatic team professional. As they stepped out onto Zithari soil, Elavix felt her hearts racing. Hundreds of her people stood at a safe distance, watching in wonder as beings from different worlds walked down the ramp. At the front of the greeting party stood Vexor, his formal robes now those of a chief elder. His face showed no recognition as Elavix approached with Jack and Wright. "On behalf of the Galactic Cooperative," Wright began, "we thank you for this historic meeting." Vexor bowed slightly. "The Zithari people are honored by your presence. We have much to learn from one another." His eyes then settled on Elavix. A moment of silence passed before he spoke again. "Is it truly you?" he asked quietly. The knowledge seeker. It is, Elder Vexor, Ilovix replied. Murmurs ran through the crowd. The story of her rescue had become legend, though few believed she had actually survived. You were right, Vexor said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. There are others among the stars, and they do not bring corruption but opportunity. Ilovix felt tears in her eyes. Our ancestors knew this. They left us the records. Records we are now studying openly, Vexor said. Your disappearance forced us to question everything, Ilovix. When the strange lights came and you vanished, many believed it was a sign. Jack stepped forward. It was simply the right thing to do. No one should die for seeking knowledge. Vexor studied Jack with interest. You were the one who took her. He saved me, Ilovix corrected, and showed me a universe where different beings live together, sharing what they know. Wright smiled diplomatically. We have much to discuss, Elder. The cooperative offers friendship and exchange, not control. Your people will choose their own path. And what is your path now, Ilovix? Vexor asked. Will you stay with us? Ilovix looked at Jack, then back to her people. My path is between worlds now. I hope to help build a bridge between them. As they walked toward the meeting hall, Ilovix felt a weight lift from her heart. She had left as a criminal, sentenced to death for daring to believe. She returned as an ambassador, living proof that curiosity should be rewarded, not punished. Later, as the diplomatic talks proceeded inside, Ilovix and Jack stepped out onto a balcony overlooking the city. Thank you, she said simply. For what? Jack asked. For breaking your rules to follow what was right. For changing my fate. Jack smiled. Maybe we changed each other's fate. Above them, the stars were coming out. But now, the Zithari would look up at them, not with fear, but with wonder. And one day soon, they would reach for them.